Howdy. Today I'm going to break down literally every weapon in Arc Raiders in just 30 seconds, updated for 2026 in order to take every nerf and buff into consideration and include new weapons as well. When you're done watching, you can change the language option to Klingon and rewatch the video from the beginning to hear some director's commentary and additional thoughts on each weapon. The Hairpin has a built-in silencer and needs to be cocked after every shot. The Hairpin remains one of the worst weapons in Arc Raiders in 2026, but every game must have shoddy low-level options, I guess, and that's what the Hairpin is. It certainly can be lethal if the wielder is smart. I once used this weapon for 10 hours straight for a YouTube video. Even still, it is a meme gun at best and a throw at worst. The Kettle, a semi-automatic rifle that can get decent rate of fire if you mash the trigger. The Kettle was nerfed after virgin players were using macros to break the game and make it shoot at maximum fire rate with just one button push. After the rate of fire cap got lowered, the gun is still capable of downing enemy raiders, but much slower than it could before. While definitely still usable, it truly feels like a shell of its former self in 2026. The Rattler, a fully automatic rifle. At base, the Rattler is bad. It requires 14 shots to down a fully shielded raider, but you only start off with 12 in the mag. However, by upgrading the weapon, you can improve the magazine size. It technically has a faster time to kill than the Kettle, which really shows you how far that gun has fallen. Not incredible, but a decent weapon overall. The Ferro, aka the Hobo Sniper Rifle, which needs to be manually reloaded after each and every shot. Despite the low mag size and bad reload speed, the Ferro hits extremely hard, and you can use it to weaken a raider and then swap to a more lethal close-range weapon like the Stitcher. Because it uses heavy ammo, the Ferro is quite good at demolishing low-level arc, making it a reliable and cheap option for clearing out some of the smaller and peskier arc enemies in the game. The Stitcher, a fully automatic short-range SMG. At launch, the Stitcher was an incredible weapon at killing raiders despite being a gray-tier weapon. Embark ended up nerfing the Stitcher to have both lower damage output and increased bloom when firing. While the weapon is less lethal than it was when the game launched, it is still a respectable and affordable PvP weapon and has slightly better time to kill than the Kettle. Green tier, the Anvil, a semi-automatic revolver that shines at destroying low to mid-level arc and does an incredibly respectable job at downing enemy raiders at close to mid-range. The Anvil has coasted along relatively unchanged since the launch of the game, and in my opinion is an absolute champion of a weapon. It's my favorite low-level arc killer and extremely viable in PvP. An all-around top-shelf gun in 2026 despite being a green tier weapon. The Arpeggio. The Arpeggio is a 3-round burst rifle, while the level 4 version of the weapon has a surprisingly good time to kill, technically faster than a Venator 3, which is impressive. Lower level versions of the Arpeggio are IMO very disappointing and feel really terrible to shoot, especially at range. Unless I intended on upgrading it to level 4, this is a weapon I almost would never touch for any reason in 2026 for either PvE or PvP, unless it saw significant buffs from the devs. The Burletta, a semi-automatic pistol with a respectable time to kill. Even the base level 1 version of the gun will down an enemy raider faster than a Venator 3, which again is impressive. It does require hardcore trigger mashing to be most effective, but it is a respectable and affordable close-range raider killer. Definitely beware of enemy shotgun wielders, but the Burletta can cook up close. The Toro. At launch, the Toro was arguably the best weapon for killing other raiders in the game despite being a green tier weapon, so Embark Studios nerfed it. The rate of fire is now way slower, the damage fall off point is a bit shorter, and it now takes 3 shots to down a medium shielded enemy instead of 2. Despite these changes and the now annoyingly slow rate of fire, the Toro remains an elite and affordable raider killing weapon in 2026. The Torrent. The Torrent is a full auto heavy machine gun with a very high rate of fire. It's clunky, heavy, and has terribly bad handling, but the Torrent is incredibly lethal and has one of the best time to kills in the game, even at weapon level 1. Decent at dishing out damage to heavier arc with a hurricane of medium ammo, but yeah, most players use it to liquefy enemy raiders at close range. A sluggish but elite weapon if you can master its bad handling. The Renegade, a bolt-action long-range rifle which is not bad at taking down low-level and flying arc and very efficient at taking down enemy raiders at mid to long range. While admittedly its time to kill isn't really sexy on paper, the Renegade shines at killing raiders from far away with near pinpoint accuracy. Upgrading the weapon is hella expensive, but well worth it if you plan to engage in long-range PvP, especially on outdoor maps like Blue Gate or Dam Battlegrounds. The Osprey, a sniper rifle, and the only weapon in the game with a first-person scope but a slow rate of fire. The Osprey Osprey is an odd duck. It has bad durability and a slow rate of fire, but it is very fun to take down raiders with at extreme long range. Some godly players like Tfue are able to pull off insane plays with the Osprey, but it requires a lot of work and practice to reliably hit shots like that on the fly. Most players will use it to pick off other raiders from crazy long range, which is undeniably fun, but also a bit evil. The Venator, a semi-automatic pistol. When Arc Raiders launched, the Venator quickly emerged as literally the best raider-killing PvP weapon in the game by a mile. Embark has since given the weapon multiple nerfs, but despite their best efforts, the Venator has remained a very efficient and reliable PvP weapon when fully leveled up. It is no longer untouchably the best weapon in the game. There is plenty of strong competition, but the blue hand cannon of death still goes hard in 2026 at mid to close range. The Canto, a fully automatic SMG with a wildly strong kick of recoil. One of 2 new weapons added in the Flashpoint update, the Canto has a very fast time to kill, but requires both upgrading and weapon mods to help control its wild bloom and recoil. Acquiring the blueprint is incredibly annoying, but worth it for players who want to bring down enemy raiders in a fast barrage of close-range gunfire. Definitely not really recommended for use on the Arc though, there are far better options. The Bettina. The Bettina is a fully automatic rifle with a slow rate of fire. Because it fires heavy ammo, it's a very efficient way for dealing with both small and large arc at medium to somewhat long range. The Bettina has received buffs for magazine size, durability, and reload speed, which PvE enjoyers gladly took. Upgrading the weapon will improve its rate of fire, and a level 4 Bettina actually has a pretty damn good time to kill, but mid-range PvP enjoyers will usually reach for other more lethal mid-range options over the Bettina. The Bobcat, a fully automatic SMG with high rate of fire. The Bobcat is one of the most lethal PvP weapons in the game at close range. If the enemy does not have a Vulcano or other sufficient way to defend themselves, they will almost assuredly die if the Bobcat wielder fires first. Its Achilles heels are being terrible at range and having a small magazine size, but that can be easily fixed by only using it up close and crafting an extended magazine mod. It has wild bloom and strong recoil, but the Bobcat is a godly raider killer and should be feared in 2026. The Hullcracker, a pump-action grenade launcher. The Hullcracker was incredibly strong at the launch of the game and has seen nerfs in the form of damage output against large arc and more expensive ammunition. Despite those annoying changes, the Hullcracker is still awesome at doing what it was made to do: punch very hard holes into the larger arc enemies. It is a solid endgame PvE workhorse in 2026 despite all changes. The Tempest, a fully automatic assault rifle. The Tempest is pretty good at both PvP and PvE, while boasting a very impressive time to kill, which is even faster than a Venator 4. The Tempest is best used at mid-range. Up close, it is outclassed by the Bobcat, Torrente, and the Vulcano. For PvE, it is respectable for dealing with lower-level arc, but not really incredible at fighting larger arc. It's sort of a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none weapon, but many raiders enjoy its versatility. The Vulcano, a semi-automatic shotgun with a high rate of fire. The Vulcano may currently be the #1 best close-range PvP weapon in Arc Raiders, with the best time to kill on paper out of every gun in the game. With the recent nerf to the Toro and changes made to making the Vulcano blueprint easier, the shotgun has only gotten more popular in 2026 to the point where a lot of players are flat out expecting a nerf. Be very afraid of enemy raiders approaching you with this weapon. There is not much you can do if they start shooting you. The Anvil Splitter, a unique gold attachment for the Anvil revolver that basically turns it into a completely different weapon. You now fire 4 projectiles per shot, making it kind of a bootleg mid-range shotgun. While tempting, the Anvil Splitter is not as efficient at PvP as the Toro, but some players like it for dealing with arc due to the respectable damage per shot. The majority player consensus, though, is that the Anvil Splitter is an underwhelming gold weapon mod that needs a bit more oomph in 2026. The Jupiter, a long-range anti-arc sniper rifle that has a charge-up time for each shot. The Jupiter has received a few buffs since the launch of the game, in the form of better zoom magnification and better handling. Each shot packs a wallop, and if you're accurate, it does a damn good job at punching holes in large, heavily armored arc. It does an especially good job at dealing with the Vaporizer, the latest high-level flying arc, which is an absolute menace to players. The Aphelion, a 2-round burst rifle. The Aphelion has received several buffs in 2026, including reduced recoil, better reload and handling, and quicker accuracy settling when aiming the weapon. The changes make it feel less clunky and more lethal for PvP, but its time to kill is just alright, and it's outshone by other mid-range PvP weapons. It has strong arc armor penetration, but due to the Jupiter hitting harder per shot, the Aphelion currently feels like the legendary weapon in greatest need of a change. The Equalizer, a fully automatic heavy machine gun with a high rate of fire. The Equalizer has changed very little since the launch of the game. It is godly at stripping armor off even the tankiest of Arc enemies and is a tier 1 weapon for dealing with both the Queen and the Matriarch, and is considered maybe the strongest and most consistently powerful PvE weapon in Arc Raiders. Be careful when wielding it. Rat players may see you carrying the large gun and try to kill you to take it for themselves. It is a highly coveted weapon. The Dolabra, a unique weapon that behaves like a shotgun when hip-fired, but if you ADS the weapon, it turns into a more accurate mid-range railgun. Very efficient in PvP, as you can down raiders up close with just 2 hip-fire shots, while also giving you decent damage at mid-range if you need it. PvE-wise, it does hit hard, but it is generally outclassed by both the Jupiter and the Equalizer in terms of fighting larger Arc. Again, change the language option to Klingon and rewatch for some additional thoughts and commentary. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.